Hello and good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the second panels for the day right here at the EPA Brownfields Conference titled Jobs as the Cornerstone for Revitalization. My name is Luis Gallardo. I am the Executive Director for the Center for Habitat Reconstruction, a Puerto Rico-based nonprofit. We form part of the Center for Creative Land Recycling CCLEAR team here in Puerto Rico and in the Caribbean, providing technical assistance to nonprofits, community groups, and local governments on how to turn these brownfields into assets for community development. So again, thank you so much for joining. I hope you enjoyed our panel in the morning, as well as our exhibitor tables and networking opportunities. We are proud to be here, and we're very happy to have an all-star group with us today for our panel. And as you all know, vacant, abandoned properties all represent risks for our communities, not only due to the presence of hazardous materials, contamination, and other types of environmental crisis, but they also represent an impediment for our development, either through the existence of these contaminants or their perceived contaminants. So the elimination of brownfields here, we do not look at it only as a public safety and environmental issue, but also as an opportunity for future development. And when we speak about this future development, we talk about a development which is equitable, which is accessible, and that's why we decided to put together this panel called Jobs as the Cornerstone of Revitalization. We want to make sure that there are job recruiting, training, and placement opportunities within the context of brownfield revitalizations. So again, it's my pleasure to welcome such an excellent team of panelists today. We have 4 panelists representing a variety of different initiatives occurring right now in the U.S. Virgin Islands. And we're going to introduce them one by one, starting off with Shanine Michel. She has been in the EPA for the last 20 years. She's an environmental scientist working as Regional Brownfields Coordinator for the Land, Chemicals, and Redevelopment Division. She has a BS in International Environmental Studies and a Master's in Environmental Management. She also serves as lead coordinator for both the area-wide planning and environmental workforce and job development training programs. She was also selected to serve as the EPA's Environmental Recovery Support Function Team to help FEMA and other agencies work through Puerto Rico and the U.S. Virgin Islands post-Hurricane Irma and Maria destruction. So she's very familiar with the situation here in the Caribbean, and due to the nature of this conference and the panel, who better than to have our friend Shanine Michel. So thank you so much for joining us, Shanine.
Thank you, Luis, and thank you, everyone. Welcome to Brownfields Caribbean Week, and I am going to currently share my screen with you. So hold on one second so I can pull up my PowerPoint presentation. Great, so I'm hoping that you can see my presentation. Thank you so much again. And I'm going to give you a quick overview of the Environmental Workforce Development and Job Training Program through the EPA. And as you can see from the image in the screen, this is the Fortune Society, a great job training program, which is supported by our upper management. And as you can see in the photo, we have Walter Mugden, our acting regional administrator, also part of the event. So really supported by a good set of individuals. So what is EPA's Environmental Workforce Development and Job Training Program? So we all know by now that the Brownfields program is designed to help communities assess, clean up, prevent, and sustainably reuse brownfields. But our Environmental Workforce Development and Job Training grants provide training to residents in the environmental field, and these are residents that are impacted by brownfield sites in their communities. We also help job training communities in the region, along with our technical assistance provider, the Hazardous Materials Training Research Institute, also known as HMTRI. And they offer a Brownfields Toolbox, which is a resource guide for those individuals that are interested in starting a job training program. And as you can see in the presentation, there are 2 images from PathStone Corporation, and you'll be hearing from PathStone shortly. So let me just give you a little bit about the program history. So since 1998, we've established an Environmental Workforce Development and Job Training Program. We have an older program, which is our Assessment, Cleanup, and Revolving Loan Program. So our program, our job training program, has been around for more than 20 years. And it was originally called the Brownfields Job Training Program, but we decided to invite other resources and other agencies to participate in our program, so we're able to expand it to make it an Environmental Workforce Development and Job Training Program. So the program was established based on recommendations from EPA's Environmental Justice Program. We felt that communities that were impacted by brownfields could be better engaged in the work that we're doing. So we decided to not only have recruitment, placement, and training in these brownfield communities, but they can also give back economically once they're employed. So who is eligible for our program? We have on the environmental workforce development and job training side, nonprofits, states, municipalities, tribes, and quasi-governmental entities are eligible for our program, as well as colleges and universities. So that's great. Similar to the assessment, cleanup, and revolving loan programs. But for our environmental training programs, we ask that you include unemployed and underemployed residents impacted by brownfields, sensitive populations such as single mothers. We're looking at also, as well as senior citizens. We're looking at hard to employ populations such as prisoner reentry, veterans, and similar hard to employ environments. So I'm sure we can find those in Puerto Rico and the VI with no problem. We also encourage the training program to have students at ages 17 and over so that they can actually utilize the certificates that they receive from the programs. So as you can see from the images, completion of the job training programs lead to eventful graduations. Graduations instill a sense of pride and fulfillment in trainees. They're often supported by families, and it also gives youth an understanding of the environment at an early age. So let's take a look at the FY21 Job Training Guideline, which will probably be similar for FY22. It's basically a year-round process. So in June to August, the regions start to provide outreach to those folks that are interested in applying to the competition. Then by September, that's usually the closing date for the request for applications. Then after that, application review process starts. And this is where we as a region get involved with making sure the applications are correct. We do a QC of the applications. Then by December, that's when your applications get moved to a national panel. So then they get reviewed and they're given a numerical score. Then by March, the announcement of the new awards the new selected awardees comes out. And then finally by April or May, we have the cooperative agreements that are processed, and then you get to start your projects in the summer. So it's a very lengthy process, but all worthwhile. So let's just talk a little bit about some of the grant facts. So every year, EPA awards the job training grants for up to $200,000, and each project is a 3-year period. We ask for the first 2 years to focus on training and the last year on placement. We generally have about 15 to 18 grants that are awarded on the national level. This year, we were able to award 18 grants nationally, and I'm happy to say that out of the 18, 4 were selected in Region 2. So we have a really good success rate with our program. Grant funds cannot be used to pay for administrative or indirect costs, including overhead costs. You have to leverage these activities, and we recommend that you partner with other stakeholders in order to fulfill some of those needs. For-profit organizations are not eligible to apply for our program. Applicants must have very active partnerships in place with local employers as well as community partners so they can help support with things such as social services for trainees. Again, the grants must target unemployed and severely unemployed residents of local communities, and grant funds may not be used to pay for training in the trades and construction or plumbing. So let me just talk a little bit about some of the environmental workforce development and job training benefits. First and foremost, our program helps to protect human health and the environment. We are building a program and increasing community capacity, providing education, safety, public health, and other environmental trainings that help to support the environment and to protect health as well. We also provide stable employment. Trainees are placed in environmental employment at above minimum wage, which is great. We build community and employer partners. That's always important. They serve as great marketing tools for our program. And partnerships help to leverage additional resources to support the job training programs. And finally, it helps to boost the local economy. Employment allows residents to buy goods and services to help their local businesses. So that's always a good positive note. So let's talk about the job training program progress to date. So since the program began in 1988, EPA has awarded over 300 grants. And of that, 18,000 unemployed or underemployed people have been trained for careers in the environmental field, with over 13,000 finding full-time employment. So that's about a 74% success rate on the national level, and we have that same success rate in our regions. And so we're very proud of that. And then finally, these are good jobs with an average hourly wage of over $15. So we're really proud of that we can support these distressed communities. So where are our job training grants? So far we have a fair amount of grants in New York with a new grantee, the City College of New York. We have one grant currently in New Jersey, and we have one grant in Puerto Rico, which is PathStone Corporation, and they're based in Rochester with a Puerto Rico target area, which we're so proud of. So we're looking to promote, support, and encourage environmental workforce development and job training in the Caribbean. So we're looking to you to help us to make that happen. So we hope that you'll be interested in applying for our job training grants in the future. So now it's time to hear from our practitioners, and thank you so much, and back to you, Luis.
Thank you, Shanine, and thank you so much. And the fact that Shanine's presentation did provide the perfect opening for the next panelist, Jeffrey Lewis. Jeffrey Lewis from PathStone Corporation talked a little bit about what they're doing, what they have been doing, and what they plan on doing in the future months and years. Jeffrey is the Senior Vice President of PathStone Corporation, providing direct services to New York, Ohio, Vermont, Puerto Rico, and has a sturdy history spanning more than 40 years serving workforce development. Jeffrey, after serving the U.S. military, proceeded to study public policy at New York State University, later joining PathStone, initially as a client advocate and staff trainer. And I was poking around on the internet doing some research, and Jeffrey's also president of the Association of Farm Worker Opportunity Programs since 2016. And congratulations to Jeffrey, who recently was selected to run another term. And Jeffrey was also selected recently as the AFOP's Hall of Fame for his contribution to workers, and in 2016 was also recognized by the Puerto Rico Senate for his tremendous work in training and employment services here in Puerto Rico. So Jeffrey, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Luis. I appreciate the introduction a lot. It's been great to be involved in 40 some odd years and work with all sorts of low wage populations and work with helping people overcome barriers to employment and to develop training and backgrounds that allow them to earn a living wage. So that's been what I've done at PathStone for the time that I'm there. And I'm going to start out this afternoon telling you a little bit about the organization and myself and what we're doing, and then hopefully finish up with some grounding in what we're doing in the VI and in Puerto Rico as well. So really excited for this opportunity, excited to be here to address these topics to all of you. Let me start out and tell you a little bit about PathStone. I'd be remiss if I didn't. PathStone is our organization now. It's an organization certainly changed over the time that I've been involved, but its change has typically been to grow bigger and be invited in to operate in additional places and to share expertise and develop local capacity to deliver and operate the programs that are beneficial to the populations that serve. Today we have operations in the Caribbean and in 7 states, Indiana, New York, New Jersey, Ohio, Pennsylvania, Vermont, and Virginia. And if you could change to the next slide, that'd be great. In PathStone's mission, is to build family and individual self-sufficiency, strengthen communities, and promote social justice through programs of advocacy and workforce development. And as Shanine mentioned, we operate in Puerto Rico, the job training grant there, and it's been very, very beneficial for the communities that we serve, and in growing people's skills to go on and tackle other community-based projects, and to have the skills to work through environmental circumstances that are less than positive in some instances as we go through. So PathStone Direct Services, next slide, please. Workforce development will prepare unemployed workers for jobs in the current and future economy. And as all of you know, the jobs need to be right for the community and employers. We try to involve employers in everything that we do as far as job development and job placement and job training, and in defining the training that's needed, but also specifically trying to get people involved in environmental workforce jobs with local environmental firms that are going to be there over the long haul, and build capacity with individuals to be the resource for those corporations in the future as they go forward. We also work with economic development and training and technical assistance, and we provide business assistance, business loans, business development, those type of activities in Puerto Rico. And we have a proposal with the agency that'll provide those resources with Puerto Rico as we continue to operate the program. The Interstate Renewable Energy Council, IREC, founded in 1977, and they are a solar technology firm, and they are working with the U.S. Virgin Islands University to do electric grid technical assistance. The university will be doing the development, but they are doing technical assistance. And then, of course, we work with the Virgin Islands universities. If you could switch to the next slide. Great, thank you. PathStone would not have been able to develop the populations that we serve, and to grow and to provide resources and assistance to any of the low-wage worker populations that we serve. And Janine mentioned many of them when she talked about the job training program for EPA, but those populations we serve anyways. We serve migrant and seasonal farm workers. We serve a reentry population in Puerto Rico now. We're hoping to replicate that in the Virgin Islands and build capacity for more of those services, because we know that there's a need. We also operate reentry programs in New York, Ohio, Pennsylvania, New Jersey, as I said, Puerto Rico. So we're clearly looking at trying to deliver those with our partners across the footprint that we operate in, and the organizations that we work with. I'm not going to read every one of these bullets, but you can see that we delivered readiness skills, training to workers, and to assist employers, and providing COVID training and awareness that they need in order to have a safe and effective workforce and workplace. We deliver occupational skills. We assist individuals with employment placements, with portfolio development, with job training paths for each of them so that they know where they're going in the field and opportunities, and look for training that's going to bolster their ability regardless of the circumstances that they face in the employment environment, to be able to shift to stay relevant and employed. And that's a resilience that certainly most people in the Caribbean have learned anyways for their own lives, and it's just an extension of that and working with that to be able to put it into practices for their job paths and their goals going forward. So we also work with the Department of Labor nationally, the Department of Labor in areas that we work in. Glad to work with the Department of Labor in the Virgin Islands. We work closely with the Department of Labor in Puerto Rico, as well as local government and as I mentioned earlier, employers. All of them are partners that are key to your being able to put people back to work at a living wage if they are still unemployed, and if they don't have the skills to get a job now, put them in a position to be able to compete for the jobs in the future. Next slide, please. So one of the things that I can tell you is that all of what PathStone has done in our efforts, both with EDA and Puerto Rico and EDA and the Virgin Islands, is to bring to bear partners within our own organization, because we recognize the strength that brings to any project that we're involved with, or effort that we're involved with, but also with all of the other partners and all the other services that we provide. I've listed here some of the economic development services that PathStone provides that we propose to continue to develop and build as we go forward in the Virgin Islands, and hiring resident UVI residents and training them, operating enterprises to bid successfully on federal contracts. One of the things that's true of PathStone, wherever we are, is we don't transplant and move and transplant individuals into the locations. I've been involved with Puerto Rico for I almost 16 years at this point, and I still live in upstate New York. I go there to hire and train and provide technical assistance and to assist people who are on the ground in their operations, but I don't try to supplant those jobs myself. It's better, and we know that it enriches the communities that we serve, and the development efforts if it's all local people building the capacity services in the future. So that's a tenet of PathStone's operations. We with our economic development agents activities, we deliver training to entrepreneurs for accessing capital through loans and investment and grants, providing businesses with technical assistance and resiliency, engage in rebuilding and create new jobs, both in Puerto Rico and the Virgin Islands. That's a goal a lot of our successful job training is based on helping provide the skills so that individuals who live in the islands have the skills to access those jobs and to grow and develop in those jobs. But there's also a role for certainly in solar and some of the other areas that we talked about for individuals and businesses to be ones to start and ones that are existent to grow and develop, so that there are more opportunities for the train for and for people to earn a living wage. I think that be clear that that is a need no matter where you go in the Caribbean to prepare for the next even the 3 to 5 years out to meet the needs and meet the plans of the varied partners that are there involved in developing business. Next slide, please. I talk a little bit here about our partner with the university. That's been a good role for us and a good partner for us. We will be, as we go forward, having an office located in the university and be involved in the activities that I've presented here. And I know that the university is building a curriculum and a new effort to provide solar business training and solar installation usage, a whole basic effort guided towards having solar capacity throughout the islands and reducing cost of individual customers for electric and electric service.
Jeffrey, my apologies for interrupting, but there's a little bit of lag in the last few slides. You can cut the video.
I'm sorry, I missed that.
My apologies for interrupting. There was a little bit of lag. Do you think you can cut the video and we'll keep the audio just to save you bandwidth?
Next slide, please. All I can hear is, do I think I can? Excuse me. Can anybody hear me?
We're here. Hey, Jeffrey, my apologies for
All right.
interrupting. There was a little bit of lag. Do you think you can cut the video?
It says that everybody can hear and see me. So if we go to the next slide, I'm going to continue. Thank you. So I'm talking about PathStone and Nano Pete partnership for the environmental training and education, and some of the things that we're prepared to provide in the islands through our relationship. And it's pretty self-explanatory, but what's exciting is that we were able to do partner with national couple previous grant applications to make both equipment and training available, which we will deliver. So that's exciting. So talking about how we do what we do. Next slide, please. PathStone works to expand workforce development capacity wherever we're involved. We also try to bring in both private foundations and other government resources. PathStone has a lot of experience both with the Department of Labor nationally and with private foundations and with housing and business and economic development. So trying to keep all of those partners involved and in the development efforts and engaged in challenges of trying to have a workforce available to meet the needs of the future. So we talked about our partnership with workforce organizations, and I don't want to minimize that at all. And I want to also reiterate that with employers is so big for us. And we generally hold forums where we bring together employers and get a good dialogue going between different employers and with the our organization and other organizations that are involved in delivering of workforce programs, so that we have a truly rich dialogue, and then that dialogue tends to guide our operations in the future. Next slide, please. We started in 2007 to provide workforce services in Puerto Rico. Puerto Rico has been on the board of directors for PathStone's on PathStone's board of directors since since I've started, for sure. So I think since our inception in the very beginning of PathStone in 1969, I think that Commonwealth of Puerto Rico was one of our original incorporators. We incorporated in 71. We are there with Puerto Rico staff of 58. We operate 11 different workforce initiatives. We started out, obviously, at the beginning without any resources, and then we brought in resources to the staff that are there and operating the programs. And you can see that's a pretty significant total of resources that we've brought into the island of Puerto Rico, and that's the goal, that we hope to also see those kind of resources into the Virgin Islands, and we'll do every bit our part to influence that to be the case. And it begins with, as Lao Tse said at one point, every journey with a single step. Well, every operation with the efforts that we're doing now, and that the EPA funds, and EPA was our one of our initial grantees in Puerto Rico, and it helped pave the way for our future as we've gone along. So again, we've served over 5,000, and we've built a strong, knowledgeable staff of local individuals spread across the island in 9 different service delivery offices, and partnered with all of the partners that I've mentioned previously. So kudos to all of them. Kudos to all of the federal agencies that have put forth the effort to make these efforts to grow the skills and training of the populations that we serve, to improve the communities and resolve the issues involved with brownfields, clearly. And then I guess at that, I just say thank you for the opportunity to present. Thank you for all of the relationships that we developed with EPA and EDA, USPOL, and all the other acronyms that become just a part of the language that we use in this environment, but that help us put together the services that help people grow and develop and gain employment at a living wage. So thank you very much for the opportunity to present, and I don't know how you're going to do questions, but however you choose to do questions, I'll be available.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Jeffrey, for your participation in this panel, for the excellent work that PathStone Corporation is carrying out. And we will now move on to our third panelist, Deanna James. Deanna is president and CEO of a magnificent nonprofit titled the Saint Croix Foundation for Community Development. Deanna is a Saint Croix native, holds a BA in literature and a Master of Communication and Public Communication. Deanna was also the first person of color in over 25 years to lead any of the 3 community foundations in the U.S. Virgin Islands. During the past 18 years, has spearheaded the foundation as it's grown in the areas of grant making, fiscal sponsorships, and education, and most recently, through fortifying the building of an extensive national philanthropic network. So, Deanna, thank you so much for joining us, and take it away.
Yeah, I think there's a video, so I think we're gonna start with the video, and then I'll make my remarks afterward.
It's from Saint Croix in the U.S. Virgin Islands, a tiny American territory in the Caribbean. Our enslaved ancestors supplied the world with sugar under 6 colonial powers, and today have yet to be afforded the privilege of self-determination.
As one of the only predominantly Black colonies in the world today, our challenges are rooted in political and economic systems which purposely placed equity out of reach.
Saint Croix Foundation is a Black-led, Black-serving, place-based foundation committed to the advancement of civil society, by nature and circumstance, laser-focused on racial equity.
Traditional ways have failed us. We know that we can't program our way out of problems of race, equity, and power. The solution to issues of racial equity in Saint Croix does not lie in the provision of more services. We must get to the root of the problem. Our systems bypass model challenges communities and philanthropy to radically innovate, to disrupt, and to center people in equity.
We are poised to build on systems where decision-making is collaborative,
Where power and resources are redistributed,
and structures are responsive to the needs of those most impacted.
We are developing a model that allows us to put any issue center stage and tackle it with new adaptive systems. With no national voting rights, 30% of our families living in poverty, and 97% of our food imported. Challenges like these are being solved in this new universe we're creating. Will you join us?
Thank you. So I'm really feeling really privileged to be here today because there are so many lessons that are being learned since the hurricanes and best practices that all of us in the territories, both the Virgin Islands and Puerto Rico, that can access to begin to very intentionally embed resiliency, sustainability into our community development plans for the future. I'll start off by providing just a brief history of the foundation, and then I'll hone in on a few of our resiliency programs, some of which began long before the hurricanes. And then I'll close out by highlighting our deeply impactful solar workforce development initiative, which I think really ties into the conversation today. Just as a brief background, Saint Croix Foundation was founded 30 years ago in response to Hurricane Hugo, which, for those who can remember back that far, flattened the island of Saint Croix and was supposed to be our 100-year storm, which is an important factoid because less than 30 years later, we were hit by 2 Category 5 storms, which have radically altered our territory's relationship with disasters and with the concept of resilience. In fact, so much of who we are today as an organization was actually informed by the circumstances surrounding our inception. Although I personally did not really get to understand the power of the vision that conceived the foundation until Hurricane Maria in 2017. Very intuitively, our visionary board that founded this organization, comprising some radical community activists, had the foresight to prioritize truly holistic approaches to community development with the recognition that everything was connected to everything. And because of the massive physical infrastructure needs of the territory at the time we were founded, coupled with the fact that our government was severely crippled, they rooted the foundation of our organization in linkage with our social infrastructure, judiciously prioritizing civil society, and namely our local grassroots nonprofits, as a central ingredient to the development and sustainability of a healthy community. What they recognized 3 decades ago was that nonprofits were in fact the closest linkage to vulnerable people, and most held an unwavering commitment to equity and to place. To date, the foundation has not only served as the territory's preeminent fiscal sponsor for over 250 burgeoning community-based organizations, but we've also led a long list of comprehensive initiatives in the areas of community revitalization, education reform, economic development, nonprofit capacity building, public safety, and much, much more. Most recently, and in divine order, 1 year prior to the 2017 storms back in 2016, we decided to deepen our engagement with our nonprofit partners by conceiving and launching one of the territory's most comprehensive and organized nonprofit consortiums, through which we initially convened over 50 nonprofits on Saint Croix, coalescing around organizational priorities, aligned missions, shared challenges. Our consortium now consists of approximately 30 official members and is currently grouped into 4 social impact sectors: culture and the arts, built and natural environment, health and human welfare, and youth and education. Exactly 1 year after the launch of our consortium, when Maria and Irma tore through the territory, so many of the stories that unfolded wholly affirmed the impact of the investments the organization had made before the storm. From an internal perspective, our board had invested in organizational resilience and infrastructure after Hugo, having all of our utilities buried, which meant that we were able to get back to work within 5 days after Maria. And then, because we had invested in our nonprofits in the years prior to the storms, deep community relationships and alliances had been forged and were poised for activation after the crisis. Those 2 investments have actually paid off in a big way since Maria, because as soon as word got out, this first really wonderful outgrowth of our consortium was that as soon as word got out that we were back in business, we had almost 20 extra bodies working out of our office for almost 2 months, which meant that we were making critical decisions about where to deploy resources as a collective. We weren't making those decisions in a vacuum. The sheer brilliance of having diverse voices and subject area experts in one room ideating and planning was truly profound. And from that collaboration came some of the single most dynamic and holistic resiliency-based pilot programs that the foundation has ever launched. First, we launched an agribusiness initiative entitled Farm Tienda, which provided 7 farmers with container farm stands that are being solarized, Wi-Fi'd, have water buffaloes, are today, during the pandemic, serving as resiliency hubs for some of the most underserved communities. Those farm stands are also assisting local farmers with expanding and fortifying their businesses after almost complete losses from the storms. And then I think one of the more successful projects that was an outgrowth from the hurricanes and our recovery initiatives. And I think the reason I was invited here today to highlight is our solar supported workforce development project, which trained and certified 9 local youth ranging in ages from 18 to 28 to become solar installers through a 6-month national certification program. Funded in partnership with the Virgin Islands Workforce Investment Board and a number of other private funders, including Global Giving, the Center for Disaster Philanthropy, and Tides Foundation. This program represents what we think is a replicable model of sustainable community development. Students received intense classroom instruction through the National Center for Construction Education and Research, NCCER, in core curriculum, electrical and solar PV installation. Students also participated in on-the-job training in solar PV installation and have since gone on to solarize 2 local community centers, both of which are sited in communities that serve vulnerable populations. One is in an elderly independent living community, and the other is the Community Center for Boys and Girls. Both will operate as resiliency hubs for communities that they serve in future disasters. What's most amazing about our workforce development program was that every single one of our young people who graduated from the program and was certified was successfully hired full-time for solar installation companies during the pandemic when people were losing jobs. The foundation continues to provide soft skills, coaching, and additional support for those students to ensure their success in maintaining long-term employment opportunities moving forward. Finally, I think one of the other really exciting, although it's not necessarily specifically focused on workforce development, but another really important resiliency project that came out of the hurricane was the renovation of an old movie theater, which the foundation owns and which we are transforming into a state-of-the-art performing arts center and a modern community disaster shelter, which will once again serve as a resiliency hub. I think the lesson from all of the investments that we've made since the hurricane is that the work we're leading at the foundation is buttressed and informed by the input and innovation of a dynamic collaborative with intersected nonprofits, and we were able to employ a holistic, multi-pronged approach to community development that is supporting vulnerable communities, that's providing workforce development opportunities to at-risk populations, that's centering resilience, innovation, economic development, renewable energy, food security, and nonprofit capacity building all into our recovery efforts. And so I'll stop there. I'll keep it short and stop there and turn the mic back over to you, Louis.
Thank you so much, Deanna, for your presentation. Absolutely love the video. And we're going to move on to our next panelist. But first, over this video on top, you'll see a little button called Engage. It's a little tab. If you click on Engage, you can post questions. And after this next panelist, we will move into the Q&A session. So please feel free to direct any of your questions to either of the panelists, to all of the panelists, or just in general, any sort of comments or questions that you may have. Remember, it's the Engage button, which should be right over here. And then please feel free to post your questions and make your comments or whatsoever, and then we will be back to that right after this panel. So now moving on to our fourth and final panelist, Dr. Suzanne Darrow-Migras, Director of the University of Virgin Islands Center for Excellence in Leadership and Learning, also known as the UVI Cell. She's a results-oriented educator with over 20 years experience in education program management, online education, and career and technical education. She has a PhD in education technology and e-learning and has a lengthy resume of civic engagements spanning a number of roles for a variety of agencies ranging from the VI State Apprenticeship Council, the VI Board for Career and Technical Education, and the VI Workforce Board. And also, interesting fact, she's an advocate for education rights for incarcerated individuals and returning citizens. So it's our pleasure to have Dr. Suzanne Darrow-Migras with us today in our Brownfields conference.
Great, thank you so much, and good afternoon to everyone. It is a pleasure and an honor to be here today presenting during our Caribbean Virtual Brownfields Week. Thank you so much to Sarah behind the scenes, who's going to be changing my slides for me, much appreciated. So it's great to be here with everyone, and thanks so much for joining today's webinar. I first became connected with Brownfields efforts and learned about Brownfields back in 2019 when Janine had reached out to UVI trying to find some space to have a Brownfields community forum. And as luck would have it, we were able to get connected, and the university was able to support that program back in 2019, and we've stayed in touch ever since. And so I also want to thank her for this opportunity, as well as the Center for Creative Land Recycling for allowing me to be here today. We definitely fully support and recognize the importance of these efforts. Next slide, please. So the theme for this panel is very appropriate, jobs as a cornerstone for revitalization. And to say that it's been a challenging year is really an understatement. As Deanna mentioned, in the Virgin Islands, we are still in a very tenuous situation. We're still recovering from the impacts of 2 Category 5 hurricanes, and the pandemic has really forced us to reevaluate how we do everything, and it's changed how we work. We've had to transition to remote work environments where we can. We've become homeschooling and virtual learning experts, and we've had to stay in touch with those ever-changing health and safety practices that come out. Certainly very interesting times. But we know that challenging times also create opportunities for innovation. So new business opportunities arise, including opportunities for us to repair the damage that we have done to our planet. And that can be done through brownfield revitalization. As Deanna also mentioned, here in the US Virgin Islands, we have very high levels of poverty, unemployment, extremely high costs of living. Rent costs, our electrical costs, our food costs are really sky high. And as she also mentioned, I think in the video, that 97% of our food is imported. And you have to really let that information settle in if you're not familiar with the Virgin Islands and how we function here in terms of our food supply. Any disruption in that supply has a major impact on everyone. So it's a very serious situation here. It can be difficult for individuals to thrive here, especially our youth. Those who can, who are able, financially able, often move stateside for those perceived greater opportunities, but that's not always the best situation. Because we then have a brain drain, and we're trying to encourage our Virgin Islanders to return back home and to continue to contribute here at home. But what does happen as individuals leave for those better opportunities is it opens the door for individuals who might not have the best intentions to come in, and they might not understand or appreciate the rich Virgin Islands culture that we have here. And so it's of critical importance for the University of the Virgin Islands, for UVI Cell, that we help to support opportunities for meaningful employment that pays a living wage. It's essential for our residents that they not just survive, but thrive here in the Virgin Islands. UVI, we are the only accredited institution of higher learning in the Virgin Islands, and so we do bear that responsibility to strengthen our students to enter the surrounding workforce. I'm going to go ahead and tell you a little bit more now about UVI Cell and the role that we play in workforce and economic development. Next slide, please. So UVI Cell, we are a division of the University of the Virgin Islands. So we're underneath the Office of the President. I report directly to Dr. Haldane Davies. He's the Vice President of Business Development and Innovation, and he also serves as a member of the Economic Development Authority Board. Due to our positioning within the university, we are uniquely positioned to engage in a number of areas. UVI Cell was established in 2002, so for almost 20 years, we have been meeting the workforce and professional development training needs critical to the economic prosperity of the Virgin Islands and the surrounding Caribbean islands. We provide quality training opportunities that contribute to both organizational and individual achievements. Our mission is to serve as that premier institute for professional development and transformation, personal enrichment and consultancy, locally and globally, through those innovative leadership opportunities and collaborative partnerships. And our vision is very similar, to be that premier institute where individuals can come to us for that support. UVI Cell, we do have 10 staff members that support our offices on both the St. Thomas and Saint Croix campuses. And we also have an extension facility over on Saint Croix in Frederiksted. Next slide, please. So UVI Cell, we are a revenue-generating, self-sustaining program, and we do have 3 primary service lines or work streams. So our foundation has been and still is workforce development. We have expanded in the past 2 years to include community engagement. We have our Center for the Study of Spirituality and Professionalism that's under UVI Cell. And our OSHA Safety and Paradise Consultation Program also falls under now our community engagement efforts. And then we've newly expanded now into offering planning, economic engagement, and policy analysis services. Next slide, please. We are accredited through ISET, that's International Association for Continuing Education and Training. That allows us to offer CEUs, continuing education units, for our coursework. We're also an American Heart Association International Training Center. And we do provide those AHA courses to healthcare providers, community members, and others through both of our campuses here at the Virgin Islands. We also have many other accredited training programs that we offer. There are just too many to list here today. Next slide, please. So I'm going to share with you a few highlights of some of our training programs. We do work very, very closely with the Department of Labor, and we do have WIOA funding for some of our courses. We also have other programs for adult education and vocational training. We also offer the National Center for Construction Education and Research Program, NCCER. So we do have the NCCER core electrical and carpentry programs that are currently on offer. That we're actually offering that through the Bureau of Corrections currently. I'll talk about that in just a moment. We also have our online high school program through Penn Foster High School, as well as many other online courses that lead to an industry-recognized certification. People don't realize that here in the Virgin Islands, nearly 30% of adults don't have a high school diploma, which equates to around 24,000 adults, and that was from the census back in 2010. So it's of critical importance that we help to raise that foundational education level of our residents so they can engage in higher education and taking on new entrepreneurial and innovative opportunities like brownfields revitalization. So Luis, you mentioned my passion for corrections, education, and working with those that are incarcerated. We have been very fortunate. We have a fantastic relationship with our Bureau of Corrections. And we have for the past year, we've done their strategic plan for them, which then led to our being able to offer in-facility academic and vocational training support, including the NCCR program, as we mentioned. We also have an inmate who became an NCCR certified instructor. And he is going to be able to offer welding courses within the facility once our individuals complete core, which is expected in the next month. We also work closely with many government agencies. So we do custom course design and development for government agencies, private businesses. We do offer for our taxi cab commission, anyone who wants to become a taxi cab operator, they do have to take our taxi and tourism program. That ensures that all of our taxi drivers, not only do they understand basic emergency skills and customer service, but make sure they understand the history of the islands that they are taking people on tours, making sure that they really understand what they are sharing, and that's a critical component of the taxi cab program. We work very closely with the Department of Education and offer the VI History and Culture course, which is a requirement for all of our teachers here in the Virgin Islands. We also partner with the Division of Personnel. We offer the Certified Public Manager program. We have our anti-money laundering and financial crimes courses. Those are all online that individuals can sign up for. And then one of our very well-received programs is our grant writing and grant management courses. We have special programs in grant writing and grant management specific to our nonprofits. And the nice thing about those programs is individuals, as part of their attending that class, they also receive one-on-one consultation support from the facilitator. So they get that chance to have a grant proposal reviewed, to get some support with grant management. So it's not just a one and done. We do provide that ongoing support. Also, I'm proud to share our work with the VI Fire Service and our Emergency Medical Responder course. We're getting ready to have our next course over on Saint Croix. That'll be in June. Here in the Virgin Islands, we have many challenges, including healthcare challenges. Right now, the Virgin Islands government is paying over $1 million a month to have off-island EMS staff here in the territory providing services. And so it's of critical importance that we are able to provide local residents with that training. And the Emergency Medical Responder course is one step. The next one after that will be the EMT program. And so we are helping to build that workforce pipeline that will then provide much needed services to everyone here in the territory. I'm also pleased to highlight the work that we've been doing with Diageo. They are our rum manufacturer over on Saint Croix. We've done the Diageo Learning Skills for Life, bartending and life skills training for many, many years here at UVI Cell. I was out the other night and I did see one of our graduates. She was working in a restaurant, and so it was a wonderful example of seeing one of our graduates going right directly into employment. And since over 60% of our economy is tourism based, being able to support the hospitality industry is of critical importance. We also have hundreds of online courses available. Individuals can go to our website and access all of those self-paced courses. We also have a very robust assessment center and assessment capabilities here at UVI Cell. We offer parametric testing, criterion testing, Atlas PSI testing. That's all for our local licensing exams. We also administer the UVI placement test through UVI Cell. And I want to just also make sure I highlight that all of our courses are free for local veterans, both through UVI and UVI Cell. All right, next slide, please. So a couple of things in development, and I have to put in a plug here because we are hiring. We have our Culinary Arts Center that is in development, and we're actively looking for a culinary arts program manager. So if you know anyone that has an affinity for the culinary space and would like to be involved in building that program, please send them my way. But we're very much so looking forward to that. The program will be starting on St. Thomas, and then we'll be creating our program over on Saint Croix in the near future. Over here on St. Thomas, it will be a full-fledged kitchen, not just a training program, but offering breakfast, lunch, dinner. So really allowing those students hands-on opportunities to work and learn. We're also in partnership with Amazon to launch Amazon Web Services Academy. There's so many opportunities within the technology space, and we're very excited to engage with Amazon there. So we've already got our faculty pool that's geared up and ready to start their training so they can get certified, and then we'll start to offer the AWS Academy Certification courses. And individuals who graduate from those certification programs will be able to go right into employment. Another program in development is our Maritime program over on Saint Croix in partnership with the Northeast Maritime Institute. And then our Department of Tourism, one of our programs there that we're also excited about is our workforce development for the film industry. This is a beautiful place, beautiful backdrops for films, exciting places to go and create movies. And so we need to make sure that we have the workforce to support that industry. People they have challenges coming down here to film because we don't have the local staff that knows how to engage in that industry. We don't have the equipment. So we're working with Department of Tourism to change that. Thank you so much. So next slide, please. All right, I want to just also highlight the work that's happening under our community engagement with the Center for the Study of Spirituality and Professionalism. We do internal as well as external supports. Our SOS University for College Campuses program that provides training for UVI students on suicide prevention and awareness, human trafficking, drug and alcohol awareness programs. That's all online through our SOS University. We also have a staff member on our team who is a certified restorative justice counselor. He provides restorative justice services for UVI students currently, but we are hoping to expand that work, especially with our reentry population. We also offer conflict management courses and pulse mediation courses, and we do have certified mediators, and we can provide mediation services through UVI Cell. One of our newer partnerships that we're working on now is with Rotary International in the Department of Education. We're preparing to have our Building Peace Through Service initiative that will include monthly student workshops for our high school students, and that's in partnership with the Man Up Academy. Next slide, please. And then just to highlight our OSHA Safety in Paradise consultation program, we do have 3 consultants currently on staff, 2 on St. Croix, 1 here on St. Thomas, but they're certainly able to travel over to St. John or Water Island as necessary. Through this program, we do offer the free confidential safety and health services for private businesses. We often partner with our Small Business Development Center, the SBDC, and the VI Economic Development authority to carry out many tasks related to economic growth and stability of the territory. During the pandemic, our program has been especially visible in offering COVID-19 related webinars and training sessions. And then just 2 months ago, through another organization, the Children and Youth Task Force, we did a cloth mask giveaway, and we distributed over 5,000 cloth masks to organizations both here on St. Thomas and Saint Croix. Actually, Deanna, I got your package coming over. I just got to box it up, but cloth masks are coming your way. All right, next slide, please. Under our planning, economic engagement, and policy analysis work stream, there's so much that we do here. I'm very pleased to share that we have recently completed work on the comprehensive economic development strategy, as well as the tourism master plan. The SEDS, that is an EDA requirement, that's a 5-year plan, so that has been completed. It has not yet been released to the public, either has the tourism master plan. The governor has recently released Vision 2040, which is the 20-year economic plan. These are 5-year plans, and we're going to allow him the opportunity to release those when he is ready. But those projects did come through UVI Cell. We also are engaged in several feasibility studies, including our work on the arts program feasibility study. We also have started work on a construction management degree feasibility study. What we have found on the construction management side is that often, we have so many construction projects that are happening here. They predict that we've got maybe between 60 and 70 job opportunities for individuals in the construction management field. Right now, we have these big construction companies come in from off island. They're able to get the large federal grants, take on the construction projects, and then our local individuals, they are left with those low-paying jobs. We want to be able to empower our local residents to take advantage of those federal contracts and understand and feel supported in doing so. So we're excited about that work. We're also engaged in strategic planning. Right now, we have a strategic planning project underway with our government employees retirement system, and I mentioned earlier our work with the Bureau of Corrections. And then very exciting news, we are, this is in development to have a EDA University Center, and that is in collaboration with the University of Puerto Rico, Mayagüez. All right, next slide, please. All right, so I do want to close by just encouraging people to reach out to UVI Cell. As you can tell, we do quite a lot of things here at UVI Cell. There are really unlimited opportunities for us to collaborate in a wide variety of areas. And we are certainly open to learning more about supporting entrepreneurs and small businesses and community organizations to build their capacity, especially if they are wanting to take on brownfields projects. So I'm looking forward to future opportunities. So next slide, please. So my contact information is here on the screen. As I mentioned, I do encourage you to reach out to me. That's my personal cell phone. You're welcome to give me a call or text so we can get in touch. But thank you again so much, and thanks again for the opportunity.
Thank you so much, Suzanne. Thank you so much for your presentation. And again, we've had an all-star team with us today speaking about different initiatives occurring on the federal, nonprofit, and community-based level, and academic as well, regarding different initiatives for jobs, especially within the context of revitalization. We do have a number of questions. We have a small portion of this panel dedicated specifically to the Q&A. Remember, up above there is a button called Engage where you could submit your questions. And I already have a few questions here that I'd like to kind of sparse between the different persons who are participating in this panel. And this first question, I'd like to direct it towards Shanine, and then I'd also like to see what PathStone's response might be, being the fact that they are a nonprofit grantee as well. Shanine, we did see a list of different, requirements and hoops that organizations need to jump through before they can receive grant funding from your programs. Could you tell us a little bit about, from the grantor's perspective, what some of the biggest impediments for some of these nonprofit groups might be to access that funding? And then I'd love to hear what Jeffrey has to say about PathStone's. They were able to achieve that funding, and what sort of hoops did they have to jump through, and what impediments did they see in the process?
Sure. Thank you, Luis. Again, I'd like to first start off with maybe talking about timing. timing is really critical when trying to plan to apply for these job training grants, because you have to think about all the pieces of the puzzles that you have to put together. Because again, you have to remember that our funds are designed to recruit, train, and place. So everything in between, from beginning to end, you're going to have to leverage towards your project or your program. So it takes time to plan for all of these other pieces. And the other thing is that our grants are really competitive. Granted, they are a feel-good program. It's, you know, it's amazing once you can get a grant, but they are super competitive. So you have to make sure that you have all the pieces together, especially when putting your application together. I know, Deanna, I owe you a conversation, but it takes time to really absorb what we're asking for in the applications. There's a threshold section, and then we have the part that's competed on the national level. So just making sure you have all those elements together. You're going to be asked to apply in grants.gov, so you have to become familiar with grants.gov. You're going to make sure that your SANS number and your DUNS number is up to date so that you can put those things in grants.gov. So every little piece counts. So the earlier you can start the steps, the better. And I know that I mentioned in the presentation the timeline. So this is the time to start reaching out to EPA if you're interested in applying for a grant, but also just starting to get those questions together, like what is it that I need to have a successful job training program?
Well, I know Jeffrey's internet connection was quite unstable, so when he comes back, we'll give him an opportunity to chime into that. But I have another question I would like to channel to Suzanne, and then hear Deanna's response as well. In your programs where you are producing training opportunities for new employees, have there ever been placement issues? And have you ever had the problem where you've spent valuable limited resources only for those workers to leave, which is a reality that we also see here in Puerto Rico? And how have you managed that?
Would you like me to start, did you say? Thank you. Yes, so we probably don't have as much of a challenge right now with placement. Most of our courses and our offerings are more so for established government agencies and upskilling their existing workforce. I did mention the Diageo program, but with our culinary program, it's going to be of critical importance that we create those pipelines to employment. As you mentioned in the introduction, I am the chair for the VI State Apprenticeship Council. Apprenticeships were way behind where the rest of the country is and having robust apprenticeship programs and connections with our employers. So that's something we're working to put in place now, and to ensure that our graduates that are coming out of that program are going to be certified and that they've got those early employer connections. We're working closely with the Hotel and Tourism Association to establish those things early on. Also, when we look at the reentry space, we want to make sure that we've got our close connection with our Department of Labor. Here in the territory, we have over 30 businesses that are able to take advantage of the workforce opportunity tax credit. That's if you hire someone that has barriers, you do get some credit for that. So we want to make sure that our reentry participants, as they're coming out and they have certifications, that they have connections to reentry friendly employers. Thank you.
And I'll take a stab at that. So one of the things that's been really, really wonderful for us is that we, when I said that we employ a very holistic approach, I mean it. We had all of our partners sitting at the table at all stages of this. We reached out to solar installation companies almost before we launched the project. They were part of the programming. They sat, they coached students, they helped us with soft skills. They were really, really ready for our students even before we were ready to let go of them. We couldn't even finish the installation part of the project because students were being hired at such a fast clip after their certification. So it was really an intentional program. We made sure that at every step of the planning process that we were thinking, 5 and 6 steps ahead to make sure that the end goal was achieved, which was to make sure that students could secure full-time employment, and all of them did. Every single last one of them was hired full-time. And we continue to support them. Our students, we know that they need additional services and support systems to sustain employment. And so we continue to do that on a regular basis, and we'll continue to do that as long as we have the capacity to support them.
Beautiful. And I have a question I'd like to channel to Shanine, but maybe I could address this since we are talking about the brain drain and trying to get people back and so on. We do have a question that I did want to channel to Suzanne, and then I'm going to go to Shanine with another one about the grant. Suzanne, someone posted that here in Puerto Rico, we do see that healing is a cornerstone of our revitalization, including welcoming back islanders who have had to leave or have been incarcerated. And I know that that's a subject matter that you are quite familiar with. So please, could you elaborate a little bit more about that?
Yes, and because of the Category 5 hurricanes that were experienced, our prison facilities were severely impacted. We actually have over 200 Virgin Islanders who are housed in off-island facilities. And so as they are returning home, we do want to make sure we're welcoming them and helping them to readjust and acclimate. We've been working very hard with the Bureau of Corrections to establish that reentry program. Right now, there's no formal reentry program within the Virgin Islands. When I saw that question in the chat, I'm actually got excited. I would love to know the contact information for that individual, or to learn more about what is happening with reentry in Puerto Rico. Perhaps there are opportunities for us to partner.
Well, Shanine, we do have another question that I wanted to channel to you. I think you'd be the best person to answer that. Are there any sort of training opportunities, maybe workshops per se, that are available for potential grantees who are interested in accessing these funding?
Absolutely. Every year on the regional level, we provide a guide to understanding our environmental workforce development and job training guidelines. So we'll have that information posted shortly. As I mentioned, the grant applications will probably be due sometime, or the announcements will be out sometime in the summer. So we're starting to gear up to prepare ourselves for that. Currently, on the headquarters level, we are revising the guidelines to make them more efficient and effective for FY22. So you'll be hearing more from me, but I encourage you to go to our exhibit booth here in the conference, and you'll find more information, fact sheets about our job training program, and you'll find my contact information as there as well. So feel free to reach out to me, and I can provide you with more information on the job training program. But our technical assistance provider for job training, HMTRI, which I can also share that information with you. They have, again, the Brownfields Toolbox, and they offer a listserv, a monthly learning tool where people will call in and they'll discuss various topics around job training, and you can definitely get a sense of what's going on or what's trending across the nation. So I highly encourage that as well. And HMTRI is a really great support system for those folks that are interested in opening a job training program, not necessarily through our EPA Brownfields program, but just job training in general, environmental job training. So really good technical assistance resource.
And I do have a question that I'd love for everybody to take a stab at, and maybe we could start with Deanna, and then everybody else chime in. And this is something that Suzanne spoke about, where we're about to have, especially in Puerto Rico's case with the CDBG-DR, sort of an avalanche of federal funding. That's and we see that a lot after these massive and disastrous natural events such as Hurricane Irma and Maria. And without a doubt, nobody's complaining. We need funding for rebuilding efforts and revitalization efforts. And but one of the things we see quite often is, the funding comes in, and we see these large stateside companies come in and they just set up, and as Suzanne was saying, sometimes the trickle down jobs that are left are for low income or low paying jobs. So what I would love to hear your reflection on that. How do you feel about that? What are things that maybe we could work towards to address that and to make sure that we can maximize the number of jobs we keep in our communities and make sure that these become long-term, permanent assets for our neighborhoods. So I'd love to hear what you all think about that.
So I'll start. So one of the really interesting things when I talked about what happened after the hurricane, where we had 20, sometimes 30 bodies in our office, some of them were federal responders. So it was a really interesting, the foundation actually got an incredible opportunity to sit up front and center at some of the initial sort of navigation of federal funding and resources that were coming into the territory by federal responders, by local stakeholders. And so we considered ourselves early on to be sort of equity vigilantes. We had some really honest conversations with folks that were coming in because they knew that resources were getting ready to be deployed, massive resources. And so we've continued to just make sure that our voices are heard, that we are sitting at tables, we are demanding accountability and equity in terms of how those resources are being dispersed and allocated. We have advocated, we've been very loud champions for nonprofits to make sure that our nonprofit stakeholders actually have equal access to those resources as well, because one of the reasons that I am such a loud sort of champion for nonprofits is because in our community, because of how hyper-political our community is, there is much greater sustainability in terms of leadership and continuity in leadership in our civic sector than there is in our public sector. And so our hope is that just having us at the table as an apolitical sort of neutral facilitator and convener and champion for equity, that that as those resources start being released into the territory, that we will ensure that there really is equity in terms of how who gets access to them.
And I'm going to just throw this out there. You all could respond however you all see fit. And I know that Jeffrey did touch this topic within his presentation. We all have been facing numerous challenges, both economic recession, fiscal issues, natural disasters, and we're already up to here with work, and we're all pretty much overworked. Then COVID-19 came. So how has COVID-19 interrupted each of your programs, and maybe some concrete examples of some of those obstacles and how you've been able to overcome them?
Yeah, Louis,
I'll go
can
first.
you hear me?
Oh.
Yeah, Jeffrey, yeah, go for it, Jeffrey.
Program. Sorry?
Yeah, go ahead, yes.
Well, I was going to say that in the programs that we deliver, we switched almost entirely during the COVID environment to a virtual delivery mechanism. And through all of our staff develop those capabilities. We provided participants and individuals receiving services with
Yeah, it looks like Jeffrey got cut. So, Shanine, if you'd like, you can go ahead, and if he comes back in, we will.
Sure. So I was going to say, based on what I've seen through our job training programs, COVID has been a blessing and a curse, only because we quickly had to shift from doing in-person training to offering a new outside-of-the-box thinking type of training, in that a lot of the programs went hybrid. So they did a lot of, or as much as the training as they could online, but when it came to like physically having to dress up in equipment, then they did a lot of outdoor type training with social distancing. So that seemed to help. And thankfully, they were able to coordinate a lot of that type of training during the warmer weather, because, we're here on the East Coast, so it gets kind of cold sometimes. But in the other sense, it's been a blessing because now we can shift the training curriculums towards COVID cleanup. And so a lot of our graduates have been getting COVID related type of employment, which is great. And that doesn't seem like it's going to die down anytime soon. So we have a lot of trainers that have gone to senior citizen centers and schools to help with some of that cleanup. So it's been good. So yeah, it's on the fence. It's 50-50, good and bad.
Yeah, and Jeffrey, before the internet was cut, you were talking about how you moved to a virtual platform. which, as Janine states, is a curse and a blessing. So I think we might have lost him again. But unfortunately, we are running out of time for our panel. I did want to note that, with the upcoming revitalization efforts, specifically from federal funding sources, and not only public funding, but also private funding, when we're talking about, the arrival of opportunity zones and other sort of mechanisms which seek to incentivize investment with the communities, we will be having new opportunities for housing, economic development, business, and so on, which are things that unarguably we need, but we need to find a way and keep joining forces and dedicating our time and resources and creating new jobs and finding ways where we can keep those resources within our communities. And as I was briefly speaking to Deanna yesterday, yes, revitalization is great. We're going to see new shiny buildings, new businesses, new spaces, and so on. But again, we want that to be as equitable and as accessible as possible from specifically historically marginalized communities. So we do emphasize that. We do have a minute left, so I did want to say, please, thank you so much for joining us for day 4 of the Brownfields Conference. Tomorrow we will continue. We have a panel in the morning at 10:30 a.m. called the Solar USVI Resilient Power Grids for Emergency Preparedness. And I know that we briefly touched the topic of the solar panels with Vienna, so tomorrow we're going to continue talking about that in the United States Virgin Islands. So everybody, thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you, Deanna. Thank you, Suzanne. Thank you, Shanine. Thank you, Jeffrey, who unfortunately has internet connectivity issues, for your participation. Again, we will be back here tomorrow at 10:30. So thank you so much again, and you all have a great day.